Hello, class. What I'd like to do right now is go over a couple of ideas and objectives. One of the questions I'd like to look at is why we study history, what can go wrong with learning history, and what is the purpose of this course, and finally, what are the class objectives? So first, I'd like to explore what goes wrong when we try to explore history or teach history. And as you see in this image here, when the teacher here or the instructor is trying to convey an idea like, let's say, D-Day, uh, the students may hear that phrase D-Day, but the teacher has a different context of the concept, the actual image of the battle, what was the purpose of the battle, where did it occur, whereas the students are getting what we call a nominal idea of what D-Day is. They're just basically calling it that name. So in this context, there's a miscommunication between what the instructor is contextually calling D-Day and what the students may just memorize as D-Day is the Allied invasion of France during World War II. So the problem with this context is that the students' minds are actually working harder as they are trying to identify definitions with certain points, cause and effects, instead of incorporating it in terms of image and context. So the goal is to help categorize and help apply images so that the students can also have the ideas and the images when they are able to make the context. So this is one of our objectives, is for us to understand what we mean when we are talking about a certain event or a certain era. And one of the tools that we're going to be using in this class is going to be some videos such as this, these note-taking videos, these lectures, and also some online videos that I'll be showing you. I'll be asking you some quizzes, and the objective of all these lecture quizzes and these chapter quizzes is to build that context and to build that image, and also to build the definitions that go with what is occurring, so that we have a communication that's established within our instruction. So now that we've looked at what can go wrong with history, basically we can learn it out of context. We could another phrase that we could use is it's learned nominally. It's just learned on the textual level and not the contextual level. Um, and so the way I mentioned before, we watch our videos, we take our quizzes, and we take our time in making sure that we have the images in our mind and we know the cause and effect that's occurring. The next point we want to go to is what is the purpose of the course, and what exactly are we trying to achieve and learn in studying history. So one of the main objectives of studying history is looking at history in terms of ethics. Now, this doesn't mean that historians are making a claim that a certain event is wrong or right. What they're asking us to do is to look at a historical event and look at the spectrum of human behavior in terms of what are people capable of, what is their potential in conflict, and how does conflict arise sometimes, and in the case of certain goals that we're trying to achieve. And one of these problems that we have is this concept of abstract rights that develop in the West. In the case, we have this abstract right of what we call freedom. And that is going to be Eric Fonner's main thesis. This is why the book is called Give Me Liberty. What are we meaning by that term liberty? There's going to be a lot of factions and groups that have different definitions of freedom and liberty. Uh, we use this term and we look at history ethically through a tradition at the universities and the colleges in what we call analysis. And one of the first people to look at history in this way, or to look at events and question how these abstract ideas can be used, is Socrates in the ancient Greek era. He observed during the Peloponnesian War that politicians were really the drivers of the war, using these abstract terms as, for instance, we're fighting for our freedom, we're fighting for our liberty, we're fighting for our nation, our empire, and it takes a lot of persuasive arguments in a free society to get a democracy to commit to something like war and so forth. So language plays a big role. And just like a psychiatrist will ask you to look back in your history and to look at the behaviors that you're doing now, historians are our way of looking at history and looking at events and exploring and analyzing how did things come to be. You will have competing theses. There are some other historians will look at America and see it as a different type of struggle, and that's part of the tradition of academics. But here we're using Eric Foner, and as I mentioned before, his question is going to be, what is freedom? Are we getting closer to managing that concept? Is it something that we're progressing and getting better at, or is it something that swings back and forth, or are we going in a downward spiral? These answers to these questions are going to be really your personal point of view. Historians don't usually come out and say um, this is wrong because this is happening. Usually, what they bring up a thesis, they bring in the evidence, and you guys are the jury. And so, I'd like for you to think of the classes that way, as you're the jury, and Eric Foner is going to bring a lot of witnesses and a lot of events, and you need to decide um, if you see a progression in the concept of freedom, or are we still running into the same problems before the Civil War. Those are some of the things that we're also going to explore in our discussion board as we look at each chapter and we examine them. The next goal we have in this class is to enhance our skills in academic reading and expository writing. So in academic reading, I do want you to cover each chapter in the very overall concept of what's happening, but I'm going to be asking you to fully comprehend parts of the chapter with certain questions that I'm going to be giving you. The next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to explain your point of that question using expository writing. The assignments, your main assignments, are going to be about 2-paragraph essays. These essays need to have a certain structure to them. There needs to be a claim sentence. There needs to be some supporting detail and some elaboration. And throughout the course, I will be giving you some feedback, and we'll kind of slowly work our skill into that expository writing. In this case, I'd like to make the point that the class is a reading writing focus class, and so the majority of your weighted points are going to be within this assessment, especially on your expository writing. This skill is going to be one of the most important skills that I need you to develop, and I like for you to think about this analysis of using history to enhance your reading and your analysis of reading, and to enhance your ability to communicate through expository writing, through making a claim and supporting that claim with facts. When we usually when we start to hone down the skill, it starts to improve, and we become very successful with it. So, quick refresher: the purpose of the course is ethical analysis, and we're using Eric Foner's book, Give Me Liberty, which he is really asking, what do we mean by freedom when we ask, give us freedom? The class objectives, which really come down to your grade in the class and how well you do and how well you're successful, is academic reading on parts of the chapter, knowing the chapter kind of overall, but knowing some specific details of it and being able to answer your short answer expository writing. And these are going to be the objectives. In a few seconds, I'm going to run through Blackboard and kind of show you what last spring's class was like. That way you can see how would you go through navigating this class. So this is very similar to what you'll be seeing this semester. The way your Blackboard should display here, what we have is our grade, where you'll be able to see the scores of your grades on your assignments. We have our syllabus here, and each one of these chapters are going to be revealed on each week that we'll be working with. This week is going to be an intro week. I have a quick assignment where I'm asking you to describe what your major is and why, and just to see, give that little practice about you turning in an assignment on Blackboard. Here on the discussion board, we'll be going to the discussion board and looking at other people's writings, and we're going to have some responses to other students' expository questions. If we were to click on a chapter here, this is pretty much typically, you'll see the expository questions, and you'll be only assigned one question. So 11 questions doesn't mean you're going to be doing 11 questions. 11 questions means I'm going to be asking you one question, and you'll be responding with an expository essay the best you can, answering that question. But you will be looking at the other students' questions on the discussion board. Okay. What you'll also see is a chapter review. We're not going to work on our protocol, but you will start seeing some chapter reviews. And here you see some of these videos. And that, like I mentioned before earlier, the problem with history is the image and the context. Sometimes the videos can be a little outrageous. They could be a little bit boring. Maybe they're repeating something you've already known. But I do need you to really look at these videos so that there's that image and that context that is being expressed. I will be explaining the chapters also, and these YouTube videos will also be supplement, but the quizzes will be both on lectures and the chapter. Okay, so this is pretty much the outline that we'll be working with this semester. And here we have certain students are assigned certain numbers, and that's pretty much how I'm going to be assigning you a certain question. So here we are in this semester. So far you have week 1, your intro. We have our syllabus. If we go to our intro, we will see our first assignment here. There will be some other assignments here this week. In fact, in about a couple of minutes, I'll give you a couple more assignments. So here we can go to syllabus. We'll see our book, and we could click on and log on to our syllabus. So here we have part 1 of our syllabus. I'll be posting part 2 as a link through Blackboard, so you can see our college syllabus. Here's my name, my email address. Usually we can resolve questions through email, but if you need to have a more discussion type of meeting, we could arrange a scheduled online meeting using Zoom. Here's our book for this semester, and here are our evaluations, our assessments, as I mentioned before. The chapter quizzes and the lecture quizzes, your chapter quizzes is open book. Your lecture quizzes is based on videos. For instance, this video is going to have a lecture quiz on our intro, so be aware. You may not have saw that earlier, but it's going to be there. It's pretty much going to go over some questions that we have about this introduction video. This is 50% of your grade, and so we have an open chapter book quiz. We have a lecture quiz. These are the easy grade to give you that bump up before we go into the short expository. And the short expository is the other more important, heavier assignment that I'm going to be assigning to you. We are going to progress towards it. We're gonna walk through the rubric, and so before you're doing short answer expository on your own, there'll be a lot of skills and practice before we get to working on our own on that. The group thesis discussion is looking at other short expository questions and developing a thesis. And then at the end of the semester, we'll have our core learning outcome, where you'll be writing a much larger essay, but this is not a expository essay. It's more of a reflection of what you've learned in class. There is no final. My philosophy is if our short expository questions become very good, our comprehensive reading becomes very good, eventually we have a good idea of what Eric Foner is asking us to look at in terms of U.S. history, and that we can carry with it with our community and with our day-to-day life and so forth, and everything from being a citizen to being a parent or a voter, possibly a politician. We have an understanding of what Eric Foner was asking us to look at in terms of American history. There is no makeup work, but I do allow for extra credit, and the extra credit is always looking forward. Okay, so we go on a point basis, and so if you feel that you need a little bit more points, if you've gotten a little bit behind, please let me know, and we can make arrangements for that extra work. There is a limit to that extra work. I usually give about 2 assignments at the maximum. If a student falls way behind for not keeping up, then that's a matter of the grade. Down here we have our